Welcome to our channel, ladies and gentlemen. I want to thank you for the continued support that you have rendered to the channel. It is growing very steadily, and I take it with a measure of humility. If you are watching our channel for the first time, I want to request you to take a moment and subscribe to our channel. Click the notification bell, and please don't forget to like our videos and share them if you can. Now, Farouk Kibet, one of the closest allies of William Samoei Ruto, has sent a very disturbing message to Kenyans and, of course, to the Mount Kenya supporters. On his Twitter handle, Kibet is saying that Ruto should be given 3 terms limit so that he can rule for 15 years. And he says that after 15 years, Kenyans will have a better Kenya than what they have inherited. And I looked at that tweet and I wondered, why now? In case you are wondering why this tweet is disturbing, Farouk Kibet is not your ordinary man. Farouk Kibet forms part of the kitchen cabinet. He forms part of the people who control State House. Farouk Bets started with William Ruto in 1997 when Ruto contested for the first time to become a member of parliament in Eldoret North, defeating the late Reuben Chesire. And he has continued with the Ruto. When Ruto was an assistant minister in Kanu, he was with him. When Ruto was part of the Kibaki Raila government in 2007, Farouk was with him. When Ruto became a deputy president in the just ended regime, Farouk was still with him. And now, so it tells you that Farouk is one of the confidants of William Ruto. In fact, I remember, because by now you are well conversant with what has been going on when people like Duale and Murkomen said that Farouk Kibet is a man who needs no office, that he himself is an office. As long as he is next to the president, he is an office himself. And there was this talk about Farouk is the one who decides who sees the president and who cannot see the president. So, ladies and gentlemen, for such sentiments to come from Farouk Kibet, then we must treat such statements with the seriousness that the statements deserve. What does it mean? And why did he decide to write that tweet? Do you think he just woke up and maybe he was bored, then he decided to write such sensitive sentiments? I tell you no, because in politics, everything is choreographed to meet a particular political goal. Number one, I think William Ruto might have sent Kibet. I'm saying this because power is sweet. And William Ruto has been a close ally of President Museveni of Uganda. And maybe when they meet, they talk about their constitution and the progress that the Kenyan constitution has made. And you know, there is no term limit in Uganda. You rule until death set you part with the presidency. And maybe after, sharing notes about the two countries and how they can relate to each other, bilateral relationships, maybe it left William Ruto with some food for thought. And he's maybe thinking to extend just for another term, because the current constitution only gives William Ruto a 2-term limit of 10 years. And so there is a possibility that he's thinking of extending his term. And this is not something that you just wake up and say, I want to go for an extra mile. You can send some of your emissaries, people who can test water here and there, just to find out what Kenyans are saying, maybe to get feedback. We've seen this before. I remember in 2013, when Uhuru Kenyatta and William Ruto were preparing to take over the presidency, they sent Ngunyi Mutahi. And after the then census had concluded, Ngunyi Mutahi came with a narrative that the people of Mount Kenya and the people of Rift Valley, according to the census then, were so many that when they vote together, they would make sure that they plunge Uhuru and Ruto into presidency. And the then tyranny of numbers was coiled around, and the narrative went around until 2013 in an election that many believe was rigged, pegged on the Mutai Ngunyi tyranny of numbers. We have seen this in Kibaki government. They could send someone like Muchuki, the late Michuki. And David Murathe has been known in the previous government when he was talking on behalf of Uhuru Kenyatta. Sometimes as a president, there are things you cannot say, but you send your proxies to say them. So there could be a possibility that the former chicken seller decided to send his man Farouk to test waters. I don't know whether they can succeed, but you see, in politics, nothing is impossible. The other reason why Farouk Kibet decided to write this could be a diversionary tactics. Of late, very many things are happening in Kenya, and maybe wanted to achieve two things. One, Kenyans are undergoing a lot of tough times. There is high cost of living. Basic commodity prices have skyrocketed, and people are talking about it. And there's high taxation, something that has really elicited a lot of bitter reactions. Are people are talking about this government very bitterly and painting Ruto in bad faith because he promised a low cost of life when he was campaigning. The Hustler Fund is no longer there, and they are launching it in a few days' time, but it is going to attract charges, interest, contrary to what he had promised. So Farouk Kibet, maybe on his own volition, or sent by someone, has decided to give Kenyans something to talk about, just to divert a bit from talking about the high cost of living. And for him to do that, he must go to the tweet. And Kenyans are now digital. And if you look at that tweet, you can go and check. It has really, really attracted a lot of reactions. And he will achieve this if Kenyans would stop talking about the high cost of living and start talking about whatever he's giving them. Because, this is a very, very delicate matter. The other thing that he might want to divert attention of Kenyans from is the recent attack by Raila Odinga, who indicated that he might just ask his supporters to stop paying taxes if the government is not going to deliver. And so people have really, you see, when Raila talks, they know very well that you don't just trivialize whatever Raila says. Because if he makes good his threats, ladies and gentlemen, then it might plunge the country into chaos. So for people to stop thinking about this and talking about it, you give them something else, an equally delicate matter, something that is a bit sensational and emotional. And this is the reason why I believe that Kibet, Farouk himself, decided to do that tweet. The other thing that might have happened is that it might be an opinion of Kibet himself or a group of politicians who surround William Ruto. The truth is, whenever you ascend to power, there are people who surround you who would have wished that you continue ruling forever. Because if Ruto continues ruling, then those who are around him will marshal a lot of wealth. They will accumulate a lot of resources around themselves. They can, acquire some land here and there. They will be popular around the presidency. These people are the part of the deep state. They control the government. They pull the strings. Sometimes there are people you don't even see. They are not part of the cabinet secretary, because Farouk is not even a cabinet secretary. But I can assure you that he is a very, very powerful man. So could be Farouk with some Kalenjin friends of Ruto, those who started sometimes back with him, those who we don't even see, maybe are thinking, what if this friend of ours, Mr. William Ruto, extends his power beyond 2027, beyond 2032. And it's something that maybe they are thinking about, and they maybe they have discussed with William Ruto, and William Ruto has refused, or they just want to write it there so that it is a food for thought for William Ruto himself to think about. And when doing this, they are also testing the reaction from Mount Kenya. Because you all know that without Mount Kenya, without those votes, William Ruto would have not been declared the president. And I always say, whether legitimately or illegitimately, the massive support that he got from Central made it easy for him to be declared the president. So when Farouk is doing this, he is giving William Ruto food for thought. He would have wished maybe that William Ruto does not go for the 2 terms. He wants him to extend. And I can assure you that this statement alone will not augur well with Rigati Gachagua. It will not augur well with Mount Kenya, because if you ask any UDA supporter from Central, they believe that Ruto is gonna do 10 terms and then pass the baton to Rigati Gachagua. If not Rigati Gachagua, any person from Mount Kenya. And I've listened to sentiments. People try to equate Ndindi Nyoro to the level of presidency, and they think that Ndindi Nyoro is the new kid on the block, the new sheriff in town, who might just take over in case Rigati Gachagua will not be accepted. And maybe now Ndindi Nyoro and the Minister for Internal Security will battle it out. So it could be an intention by Farouk Bets. I believe, in my very considered opinion, that Farouk Kibet wants to provoke opposition. You see, the opposition, or let me just call it opposition because they're not part of the government. The Azimio government, the Azimio party, still believes that their votes and their victory was stolen from them. So it will be adding salt to injury if someone from Ruto's side will tell them that despite thinking that Ruto rigged elections, someone is suggesting that he rules for more than 10 years that is stipulated in the constitution. And you will see the opposition will react vehemently about these statements. You know, sometimes in politics, you just want to provoke your opponent to see. By doing this, you want to see the card that they're hiding. Because when you give such sentiments, they will come out and they will be coming with guns blazing, and you will see what will happen. It might just set another conversation where the Azimio and the Kenya Kwanza team will be baying for each other's blood, ladies and gentlemen. And as always, these are just my thoughts. I don't know what you think. Please let's share in the comment section and tell me what you think about this tweet. Am I reading too much about Farouk Kibet? Thank you for watching. Until we meet in another video. Cheers.